Hey guys, I'm Amit Kumar and welcome to this video in which we are going to talk about lists. This is part 2. When using one-dimensional lists of primitives or objects, we can also use array notation to declare and reference list elements. So one-dimensional lists means when we don't use the nested list concept. So if we are creating a one-dimensional list or a non-nested list of primitive or any objects, we can use array notation as well. Now the array notation is nothing but using the square brackets to denote it. Now for example, the following two statements are identical. Now you can see in the first statement we have declared it as string with square brackets. This is the array notation. So we can declare an array like this, and what we have done, we have declared it as an array but we instantiated it as a list. In the next statement we declared it as a list and instantiated it as an array. Now make sure that the type of the array or the type of the list should match in the declaration and the instantiation side. And one more thing, when we are instantiating it as an array, we must specify the size of the array. Even though the size of the previous string array is defined as 4 elements, lists are elastic and can grow as needed, provided that we use the list add method to add new elements. So definitely in the second line we have instantiated it as an array of size 4, but we can add as many elements in this list as we want because list is having an elastic nature. But make sure while adding the elements you should use add method and not the array way of assigning value. And we will see the difference of using an add method and using an array while adding a value in the practical session of this video. But if we are using square brackets to add an element to a list, the list behaves like an array and it is not elastic that time. That is, we won't be allowed to add more elements than the declared array size. So now it's time to see the things practically. So guys, here we are in our developer console and let's create a program to understand how to use a list as an array and to understand the difference of adding elements to the list as an array and as a list. So guys, this is the program, and as you can see I have declared here an array, a string array with name str array, and I have instantiated it as a list. Now this is how we assign value to an array. We give a name of the array, within the square brackets we use the index, and then we assign the value to that specific index of the array. So here we declared an array, we instantiated it as a list, and then we try to assign value as an array over here. And finally we are trying to print the value. There is no compile time error while we are saving the program, but let's see what happens when we execute this program. So as soon as I will click on this execute button, I will get this list exception, and the exception is saying list index out of bounds 0, and it is on line number 4. And the reason is very simple. So if you see the line number 4, what we are trying to do, we are trying to assign this text 1 on the 0th index of this array. But the problem is we haven't specified the size of an array. So if you are trying to use it as an array, the array should be declared with a specified size. Otherwise, it will assume that the array is of size 0. And an array of size 0 cannot be assigned with any value, and that's why it is throwing an exception out of bounds. Now if we try to use the add method for this case, let's see what happens, and let's try to execute it, and it is printing all those values. So if you are using or if you want to use a list as an array, make sure that you instantiate it as an array and then the size should be specified. Otherwise you would not be able to assign the value as an array. Now let's create another program. So guys, in this program what we have done is we have declared a list and we have instantiated it as an array. Now because we have instantiated it as an array, we have specified the size, and currently the size is 4. So definitely we would be able to add the element to this list as an array. And the list size is 4, so we are bounded to add 4 elements only. So let's first add 4 elements to this list in form of array, and let's try to print the value. So you can clearly see it's printing the value over there. Now what happens if I try to add more than the array size? So if I will run this program now, I will get another exception. So let's do that. And you can see again the same exception, list index out of bounds, but this time on line number 8, and out of bound index is 4. So on line number 8, you can clearly see we are trying to add at the 4th index, but the list size is 4 or the array size is 4. Hence the last index for this array is 3. And if we will try to add any value to an index which is not in the valid index range, definitely we will get list out of bounds exception. So if we are declaring a list as an array, then we can't add elements more than the specified size. But if we try to add elements with the use of add method, definitely this size will not be a boundation for us. So hence I have used these add methods to add 6 elements to a list instantiated as an array of size 4. And let's debug this. So guys, you can clearly see the output, and the interesting thing is it will add 4 nulls. Now what are these 4 nulls representing? Because the list was instantiated as an array of size 4 and we are adding 6 values to it. So what it will do, it will add null to these first 4 locations, and then it will start adding this list elements. So if you are instantiating a list as an array, then definitely whensoever you will add the elements with the add method, it's going to add as many elements as you want, but it will add as many nulls as you have specified the size of the array, and then onwards it's going to add the list elements. So that's why we are getting 4 nulls first, and then we are getting the list values. I would highly recommend, if you still want to use an array, I would highly recommend to use this method where you are instantiating it as a list and then adding it with the add method. If you want it to be elastic and if you want to add as many values as you want, in case if the number of elements to be added is already fixed, then you should work with array type of list. In Apex, lists and arrays are almost same, with the same restriction, like an array will always have a specified number of size and it will be non-elastic, whereas in list we can add as many values as we want because of its elastic nature. So that marks the end of this video. See you soon in the next video. Till then, thank you and take care.